In today's video, I will be telling you how to make your own webcomic. I will be taking my own webcomic trust issues that I've just published a few months ago as an example. Number 1, the idea. If you want to make a webcomic, you probably have an idea already what you want it to be about. So you already know what character you want to have in that, like who's the main character, and also the world setting, what genre it will be. For trust issues, the world setting is in art school. There will be like 90% of the story, right? So that's their kind of world setting. And then the genre is slice of life because they have to work with normal problems like school and daily things like freaking grocery shopping, this is like slice of life, and romance. You can of course obviously have it be two genres. Another example would be fantasy, then the world setting wouldn't be on Earth, it would be on maybe a different planet or something, right? My idea, summarized as an example, Gabe, the main character, has developed trust issues because his best friend rejected him. He's also mentally a bit unstable. That brings us to point 2. Know who your main characters are, or short main characters. If you have the idea for the story, you also probably have the idea for the characters. So design them, make a character sheet for them. It's really important that you know what their personality is. So like making a little sheet, you can find these online with name, so you maybe even know their full legal name, age, height, what they like, what they dislike, all of that stuff. So you kind of have an idea what they are. You can even, I did that once for my other comic, Model Demon, for those characters. I once did that quiz, that personality quiz. You can answer the questions as if you were the character in that situation answering the question, and that kind of brings you to who or what kind of character type they are, right? That's also really fun. If it's a romance, trust issues kind of is a romance, so you also have a love interest. So what are their dynamics? Obviously dynamics come together through their personalities. So if one is like kind of an introvert holding back, then you know like, okay, they're not gonna be super extroverted towards the other person, except that's the dynamic. There's an existing dynamic that person is super grumpy and in a bad mood, except when they're with the other person. That's, for example, a dynamic that you can do. That's like kind of you build from those characters what they are, from their personalities, you build together the dynamic if you want to make a romance. Or also like generally if they have friends, what's the dynamic with their friends. Like for example, Gabe, he met Henry right at the beginning of the comic pretty much, and then Henry's friend Akari, who both kind of also play a role in the comic. Like you don't really want to have the story just be about two characters, also bring a friend of one character in, so it's not really just revolving about these two people, except that's really what you want to do. And I didn't want it to be just the two of them. Obviously people have friends sometimes, so I brought in 2 other people, so we have sort of 4 main characters, but it's really just these 2 being the main character. Right? You have that set up. You have the idea of what the comic is about. You have the idea of who the people are that are in the comic. You have the world setting, you have the genre, and now it's about number 3. Know your start and end. You kind of need to know where you want to start and where you want to end. The start for trust issues is Gabe gets into art school. His art school that he has always dreamed of, his dream art school. The story starts with his first day at art school. And the end, as of right now, is the main couple, Gabe and Alex, getting together. Another example would be if you have a fantasy story and there's a villain and there's a hero, and the hero gets introduced in the first few episodes, and then the end of the story is either the hero kills the villain or gets together with the villain, whatever you want. You need to know the start and the end before you even get into the whole scripting process. Now let's get to point number 4. You have a start and an end. Now you should get yourself a big piece of paper and make a timeline of events that you want to happen in between the start and the end. Let me just pick up my own timeline. I'm gonna show like this part up here. This is kind of like how it started. Don't judge me on what I've written down here, like Gabe struggling to socialize. Like this is Okay? Okay. So you have art school starts. They are in school and meet. They bump into each other. Like, this is about Alex and Gabe. So, like, the whole process leading up to episode 6 of them meeting again are these 3 bubbles. So this is kind of the timeline, right? Art school starts, they get into art school, and they bump into each other. So you have like a scene where Alex gets into the school, you have a scene where Gabe gets into the school, which is like this bubble, and then where they bump into each other. These are really like stupid bubbles of Gabe shook and Alex surprised, like, damn, who would have thought? And yeah, sometimes I cross things out. There's a lot of confusion. Damn. I never would have thought that. And you can always, like, the fun thing about these is you can always, like, add. First it was like this, and then I added these things to, like, you know? Another example of Gilbert the Frog, which is a Finnish webcomic I finished right before Trust Issues. I can actually show you this because this has all happened already. This is pretty much how I scripted out the finish line, like the last few episodes. I really went into detail here. With Trust Issues, I didn't went that much into detail. You don't have to do this whole detail thing, but what I mean to say is it's really helpful when you plan out those events. It really is good if you write down what you want to happen between the characters, like them meeting, them bumping into each other, them meeting in a certain situation, or some really specific event that you want to happen, to write that down and then in what order you want it to happen. Doesn't have to be like me, that messy, but that was just an example. So that's really helpful to have a timeline. The format. You can do it in a page format, but also in a webcomic format. That's completely up to you. I did both already. Space Lovers, another webcomic of mine, which is also finished, is in a page format. I always uploaded 2 pages at once, so if you click on the episode of the comic, you have like 2 pages in a page format. For My Little Demon, I always did the webcomic format. I now also do the webcomic format for Trust Issues. It's kind of difficult if you want to one day put it into a book, because then you have to rearrange the whole thing. That's kind of difficult. That's what I'm totally excited for. But for Space Lovers, for example, it's really easy because it's already in a page format. Also, really important, pixel size. That is something I never paid attention to back in the day. And it is really important that especially if you plan to one day publish it as a book or as a print or something, it's really important that it's at least 1,500 pixels, if not more. I would really just say 2,000 to 5,000, honestly. You kind of have to keep that format from Webtoon. If you want to upload on Webtoon, obviously. There's like a certain format that you have to go with. I used to do it by their format and then would put every single panel onto that size because I thought only that was the way. But you can really just calculate that up to how many panels you want. For example, 16 panels or 20 panels. How much ever the software for art you do it on has to give. So the pixel size I use right now is 800 times 12,800, which is the normal size for Webtoon is 800 times 1280. I just put a 0 behind that, so the panel gets really long, so you have like a lot of freedom to do like special panels and don't feel squeezed in a little square, you know? Number 6 is a really simple one, go with the flow. When I started out, I really didn't care. My first Webtoon, My Little Demon, is really messy at the beginning. I really didn't care. So obviously for Trust Issues, I kind of, also my other comics, looked into being more planned out. And you really can't plan it out fully. Like, your brain only has that much space. So you can't really just like sit down now and expect the whole entire year-long story to come towards you. You have it all scripted out on the first week before even publishing the comic. That's not kind of how it works, at least not for me. My brain doesn't have that capacity. If yours does, good for you, but mine doesn't. So by go with the flow, I mean that ideas will come to you randomly if you randomly eat fucking lunch or something. What also helps for me is imagining scenarios to music. Now, I'm sure many people do that, so I don't think that's anything to be embarrassed about. Also making maybe like mini comics or, like I said, scenarios of your characters can help what kind of direction you want it to go. Once again, helping with the timeline and all the in-between events that will really just mix all together in a little mixer and give you the story that you wanna do. I really recommend, though, think about it. Really think about the story, because once you publish it, you kind of can't undo it. Okay, what am I saying? I'm saying that you kind of need to know for sure what the start is and what you want to go with, because I've seen some comics be deleted in the middle of it, and people already like the comic, people already like the story, people already got invested, and suddenly you don't like it anymore as the creator, and then they delete their comic and remake it because they don't like it anymore. Me as a reader, I don't like that, because I got invested for what? So you remake it? So really be sure that you know exactly what you want to put out there. And also, art style wise, I think I am a person that can say it doesn't matter like that. For me, I think, and maybe also some of my readers, I think it's nice to see the evolution of my art style, to really see how I improved over the years and how I just change it. The evolution of my art style is really just like public, and it's also public if you put it on social media, of course, but it's like different if you post it as a webcomic, because it gets people invested in a different way, you know? Number 7, platforms. Me personally, I started out with Webtoon, Canvas, and Tapas because these are the only websites I really ever saw. Pretty much, if there is a comic that is really in a unique art style and it's on some comic website, it will be on Webtoon, Canvas, or Tapas, honestly. These are the two main ones that everyone will tell you about. There are different ones that I've heard of recently that people also have switched to. You can check those out. I'm honestly fine with the ones I have, but I might also look into posting it on other websites. I would recommend starting out with Webtoon Canvas, of course, because that's the one most people look at when they find out that you have a webcomic. This would be how to make a webcomic from me, from someone who has 4 webcomics, 2 of them finished. If you would like to see them, consider checking them out. I would really appreciate it, especially Trust Issues. You know, the ball's gonna start rolling because it just came out, came out a few months ago. And also, if you have any questions whatsoever, I would love to answer them, so just comment them down below. That's all for me. Goodbye!